Hey, what's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome back to another edition of the show. It is August 3rd, 2022, and this is episode 326. I'm joined by Kyle Klingman, who's up in Cedar Falls, Iowa. Kyle, how the heck are you?
And you did it right. I don't know if you said Cedar Falls correct because we have a native-born Iowan on the show, but whatever the reason, I'm happy about that.
I don't know what you're talking about, Kyle. I love you. How's things in your world this morning?
It's good. Just there's the day after hangover from international travel. Have a little bit of that, just being at the U17 World Championships, but still buzzing from that, and just excited to be on with you, Mark.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm glad you're back on track at least a little bit. You're up this morning. Maybe you got up way early, but I'm excited about our guest today. He's been on several times before, and it's always good conversation. Let's bring him on. Thomas Gilman. He's world champ last year. He's been second. He's been bronze at the Olympics, and just overall great guy. Thomas, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. How are you guys?
I'm great, man. Kyle's a little jet lagged, but whatever. He'll make it. Actually, so talking about U17 cadets, whatever you want to call it, did you get a chance to either watch the performance or see any of the results? They kind of cleaned up, at least in freestyle, men's freestyle.
Yeah, I followed a little bit, just some of the highlight clips on Instagram. I didn't really tune in to the matches, but just some of the like I said, the highlights on Instagram via UWW or with you guys on Flow. Obviously, followed the results, and these kids are good, man. They're really good. So, I'm happy for them. You know, guys in the juniors and seniors better watch out. You know, these kids, they're developing quick and fast, and you know, I think it's the club system, right? You know, you got clubs like M2 and Seabold out there in Iowa, so they're really developing kids at a really early age, and some of the skills that they're doing is just it's really unbelievable. A lot of skills that I'm not able to do as a senior level athlete. So hopefully these kids, you know, stick with it and stay on the right path and have a lot of success in juniors and then on the seniors as well.
When you say they've got, have developed skills that you haven't or whatever you just said, what do you mean? Or can you give an example of a position or a technique or a situation?
I don't have anything in particular. Just just their composure really is big. You know, for being such young guys. You know, they're down late and they're able to find scores, or they're up big and able to put matches away. You know, I think that's the biggest thing. Just being able to have that composure at a young age, it's huge. Just the skill sets. These kids are doing things. It's not just single leg, high cross, double leg, run around behinds. You know, it's inside trips. You know, stuff like that. It's pretty impressive that what these kids are doing. You see it at cadet level. You know, internationally a lot. You know, the Russians obviously, you know, develop guys pretty early, but seeing that we're able to develop these kids, you know, at a young age here in the United States, I think it's inspiring to watch. You know, I'm excited for this next generation of guys and see what they're able to do.
And I know you were on 2014. You were a junior on a junior team. You had a bronze. Did you try to make like cadet teams prior to that? And were you like on this scene as a cadet, or I guess they didn't have anything probably younger than that when you were going up?
Yeah, so 2011 I think was the first year they brought the cadet world championships back, and I made that team. It was in Zambethli, Hungary, you know, town right on the border of Austria. I think they have a couple Greco tournaments there, but other than that, people probably would never hear of the town. But yeah, I made a cadet team. I think I went 1-on-1. I beat Uzbek the first round and then lost to a Georgian second round. So obviously it wasn't a great performance, but it was a great experience, you know, traveling overseas, you know, for the first time, competing like that for the first time on a international level. But yeah, that was my first experience in 2011 when they first brought that U17 or cadets back then back.
Sure. And it probably didn't have the amount of coverage, hype, information, right? The internet was still smaller and it wasn't as big of a deal. But what did you take from it, maybe on the mat and off the mat, traveling, being overseas, getting the foreign feel? How was that experience for you?
It was amazing. It was kind of life-changing in a lot of different ways, you know, just being able to travel overseas, and gives you just a good perspective on life and how good we have it here. You know, Hungary is, you know, a Central European country. They have it pretty well off compared to other places I've been in the world. but just seeing how different it is. I think I pick up more off the mat, behind the scenes, than I actually do on the mat. And just being around all those countries. I have countries from, I wrestled Uzbekistan and Georgia, but you have back in the warm up area. I remember, I didn't have a warm up partner, so I was warming up with a bigger guy from Mongolia. I didn't speak Mongolian and he didn't speak English, but wrestling is its own language. You figure out, he needs a partner, I need a partner. Let's make it happen. And that's kind of freaky to some people. They're like, oh, well, what if he hurts you? Or what if he does this? It's like, I don't think that would ever happen. There's too much respect in the sport. You're both athletes. You have a lot more in common than you think. There's no point in trying to hurt somebody. But just being, like I said, back in the warm up area, you're with, every different country. It's like the Tower of Babel. You don't know what's going on. Every different language you could possibly think of, being spoke there, and just watching different countries and how they kind of go about their business and warming up and getting ready to compete. It was pretty enlightening experience. I was like, this is what I want to do. I've always had this vision, this dream of being a world Olympic champion, but going over there in 2011, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is actually what I want to do. It's not like I wasn't freaked out, like, oh, maybe not, maybe this isn't for me, but it kind of stoked that fire in me. It's like I like to think I'm a pretty cultured individual, and I like being around different cultures and learn different things, and wrestling just happens to be my avenue to get that done.
Heck yeah, I would definitely consider you cultured. How important was that and the 2014 and just any experiences you had overseas at a younger age preparing you for the senior level? And I know the goals when you're younger are the same, but the ultimate goal is the senior level, right? How instrumental were those experiences in helping shape you to have the confidence and know how to say, yeah, I'm ready to go to the senior level and travel the world and do it?
Yeah, a couple of things. I think the first thing is just kind of breaking the ice. Here in the United States, you're pretty familiar with the style and your opponents, and it's very familiar, right? You know what you're going to get, the feel, you got some outliers. I think of guys off the top of my head, like a Yanni or a Spencer Lee, guys like that. They're going to give you a little bit of a foreign, different type feel, Guido as well. But for the most part, it's the American style, inside control, hand fighting, more of a fist fight than a chess match, I like to say. But then also, a lot of these guys that you're seeing, especially internationally, that are going to U17s, U20s, whatever, junior, I don't even know what it is anymore. Cadets, juniors, seniors.
Yep.
They're the same guys that are winning at U17s are a lot of times the guys that are winning in a couple of years down the road at the senior level. You remember, Sadulayev, first on the scene at the younger level, and then you're like, okay, this guy's something. And a couple of years later, he's winning senior level titles. And then I think of a guy like Asgarov. He wrestled juniors and seniors in the same year. I think he might have got. I think he won juniors and got second in seniors back when he was down at 60 kilos, because then he wrestled Stieber and he wrestled Kudukov at the seniors. So there's not a lot of difference between, especially the juniors and seniors. They're pretty close. So getting that experience, and you get familiar with these guys, from an early age, it's the same, similar. There's some differences, but the best guys you're going to see, cadets, juniors, seniors, all the way through. So getting your hands on them early, I think is good. And just not only getting your hands on them, but just being familiar with the atmosphere and being okay with being uncomfortable in a foreign environment. You don't have your food. It's not the same. It's different everywhere you go in the world. Everywhere you go in the United States, everything's pretty status quo and similar. You can find your Whole Foods, your whatever it might be, your Chick-fil-A or whatever your fix is. But overseas, sometimes it's hard to find normal food, quote unquote. So just being able to adapt and overcome and go out there and compete.
Have you, like you mentioned Asgarov, Kadukov, and I think a couple others, like, have you kind of kept an eye on the international scene from that young age of 2011 or 13, 14, and like who, Sadulayev is the other guy you mentioned, I think, and like who the players are, and like kind of watch their careers unfold?
Not as good as I probably should have. More so recently, maybe in the last 5 years, kind of paying more attention to the junior level. guys just because, those are the guys that are going to be the next up and coming guys.
Yeah.
There's always a turnover at some point, so you got to be ready for that turnover. A guy I think of is Magomedov, the 61 Russian that won the Worlds. He was a guy that I kind of had an eye on, when he was in juniors. I think he wrestled fixed at juniors. So especially, when you get these really good Americans that go over there and they get beat by, a Russian, that's an example of, okay, we need to keep an eye on this guy because he's probably ready to go seniors at any point, So more so lately, but I haven't really kept track of anybody that I was around in 2011, 2014, all the way through. I mean, there's one guy I remember, I think it was 2013. I made a junior team. I lost to him in Bulgaria, Vangalov, I think it's how you say his name, but he's still, he's up at 61, but he's at the Olympics at 57 this year. And I wrestled him one time internationally as well and lost to him in Bulgaria, of course. But yeah, off and on, more so lately.
Sure. And you mentioned the American style is the American style for the most part. You have the Seth Grosses and the outliers. And fist fight versus chess match. I would categorize yours as a pretty American style, right? Your heavy pressure, your collar tie. Has any part of you evolved or switched over or morphed into the chess match a little bit?
Trying to, I think.
Sure.
It's hard to break old habits and teach an old dog new tricks, but I think from not necessarily a technical perspective, but like a tactical and strategic perspective, trying to adapt my wrestling or expand my wrestling in that sense. Just paying attention to the feel of the match, the flow of the match, picking the pace up, drawing it back maybe at the right times. Picking up on his cues. So definitely paying more attention in that sense, like a tactical, strategic perspective. Not much is going to really change my wrestling at this point in my life. Technically, I've had a lot of success. I mean, I got to just tighten down the things I do good. I don't think I need to really add many things technically. Maybe just buckle down certain positions and just really become expert at the positions I'm good at, but also just expanding. You're always expanding your wrestling and throwing a few things in here and there, here and there, and you never know when you might need to pull a trick out of your hat. So always kind of adapting.
Yeah. You talking about picking up on cues during a match and maybe adjusting your pace or tempo and I guess what I'm trying to get at is how the thought process happens during the match, where obviously you're focused on everything in front of you, which is him, and what's happening in real time. But then there's a part of you that probably has to process what you just said, picking up on these cues. And I don't know if there's a way to explain how you think during a match or how you pick up on cues and make these adjustments while fighting off or attacking either or what's in front of you. Does that make sense what I'm trying to ask?
Yeah, I'll try to get to where you're trying to get. I'll just start here. It's a strange dichotomy. My wife's in the room. She's gonna laugh at me, but because you don't want to think too much during the match. I always make fun of myself. When I start wrestling with my mind, I always get beat. But when I wrestle with my heart and my feelings and my emotions, I usually win. So picking up on cues, maybe from an emotional perspective. I'm doing this to the guy and he doesn't really like that, so I'm gonna keep doing it. Or I'm doing this to the guy and he's kind of beating me in that position, so I'm making an adjustment. So not really thinking per se, but kind of thinking kind of with your heart in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And if you're out there thinking, you're going to be a step behind. You kind of got to feel and kind of predict the future in a way, but kind of collecting data the whole entire match. Maybe right off the whistle, I club the guy hard and he just doesn't like that. Maybe he does a little something and looks at the ref and looks at me and wags his finger. I was like, all right, I'm gonna keep doing that because he doesn't like that. Or that's just an example. Or sometimes you get in a situation where you kind of get in a flurry and you kind of smell blood in the water like a shark, and you're just going to keep that flurry going, because you kind of got the guy reeling and it's only a matter of time before you get to his leg or get to an underhook and push him out. So just kind of feeling those things and making those adjustments and collecting data throughout the whole match.
Sure. And maybe on a similar note, but a little bit different. We were talking, Mike Matt was here yesterday and we were talking with Kyle about Oh, we're talking about James Green and kind of coaching, right? And then like specifically coaching at an event or in a match. And I made the analogy of the UFC, and when it's in between rounds and you have three coaches and they're yelling, keep your hands up, circle left, circle left. When he does, they're yelling 100 things at you. And I'm like, it seems like too much to process. And maybe a coach tells you one thing or one or two things. Or my question then is like, do you have these conversations with your coaches on how you like to be coached, whether it's in practice or in the moments leading up to the match or literally in the match or in the corner? Are those ever conversations that you guys have?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I remember when I first got here to Penn State, we did a rock fan event, and I wrestled Darian Cruz. And kind of before that match, me and Coach Cody were walking around the parking lot, and he's kind of like, "Well, I've never been in your corner, so what are you looking for?"
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't really know. You're my coach now, so whatever you think, what I need, we'll just kind of make adjustments as we go. And that was about kind of the only conversation we really had, because we kind of clicked right away. And Coach Cody's really good. And all the coaches here, they are more focused on, or they want their athletes to focus on what we do best, not really worry about what that guy does best. Obviously, there's sometimes I come in the corner and Coach Cody's like, "Hey, this guy's doing this and you're not really doing what you should be doing." So just kind of little reminders. It's more so just kind of keeping me from going crazy. I come back to the corner, it's just kind of like, "Hey, all right, let's take a deep breath, let's calm down. Let's go get this next score and just keep putting the pressure on this guy." So it's not like you're saying, you got three coaches in the corner in UFC and they're all barking different things. I think that for me personally as an athlete, that's a little overwhelming. Just tell me, relax, keep your cool, circle, keep your hands down, don't reach. You're good. Just go get the next score. That's about for me as an athlete. That's about all I need. If there's a little technical thing that because obviously the coaches see things from a 10,000-foot view, that I can't feel or I'm not seeing. So maybe if there's something that I'm reeling on something or I'm overreacting to something, they can see why or where. So they'll kind of give me a little tip there. But you only got 30 seconds in that corner,
Right.
so it's not a minute. There's a big difference between having I think it's a minute in UFC. It's a big difference whether it's recovery or trying to get some coaching in the corner. So a lot of the coaching happens long before that.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, like I guess competition wise, it seems like you've been competing a fair amount. And let's just say, as opposed to a guy like David, right? Taylor hasn't competed a whole lot, but you both have had a lot of success. Why have you chosen to compete a significant amount or a good amount?
I don't know. I think I just want to compete. I like competing. I like testing myself. I just like competing. That's pretty much the only reason. There's no real philosophy behind. Well, I want to get X amount of matches in for the World Championships, and I want to work these kinks out or this kink out. I think it's just I like to compete, and I want to compete when I can. I probably would have competed a little more this year, but just Tunisia was a good event just to kind of get some kinks out, and it was sometimes I feel like you need bad things are going to happen one way or the other. This is the way the world works and karma works, and sometimes I feel like if I compete enough before the World Championships or before a big tournament, I can get those kinks out, get those bad things out before it really matters. So you guys asked me if I mind you guys pulling up that German match. That's a good example. There are a couple technical things in there that I didn't do very well that I got kind of racy with, and but I think that I was going to get pinned regardless, at some point in my career right now. So it was better to kind of get that out of the way before it happens the World Championship. So
And then like I do want to watch that match in a moment, but I want to like going to the World Championships is like and there's periodization and peaking and all that I assume you guys do to whatever degree. But it's like you want the best version to show up at the Worlds. But to me, when I think I'm like like he's just great. He's a really good wrestler. What can't we have our best version all the time? Or because it's I'm sure you always try to win. You try your hardest to win. Is there something different about the pinnacle the nationals or the worlds or the Olympics, where there's a little different level of preparedness, whether it's physical or mental?
For sure. I mean, I think it's just impossible to be the best all the time. There's always this curve. You're always kind of training, and you get to a peak, and you come down. You have to have that ebb and flow in your training, your competition. Penn State as a program is a pretty good example of that. They can have a decent season, let's say, and then an okay Big Tens, and they come out and just crush it at the nationals. There's a I don't want to say there's a plan to it, because the biggest secret about Penn State is there is no secret,
Yeah.
right? It's just they know that, the coaches know that it's unrealistic to be your best every single week out, every single competition out. It's just impossible, and that's a lot of stress to put on yourself, to be like, I got to be perfect, I got to be the best version of me every single time out. Obviously that's the ideal, right? But
Yeah.
it's just impossible to do. So I think going to tournaments like a Tunisia, like a Pan Am, stuff like that, you're not really peaking for that. You're kind of training through it, So you're maybe not the top physical shape. Your strength isn't quite where it needs to be. Your weight isn't quite it's under control, but it's not quite optimized yet, because it's a process to get down the weight. It takes time, to do it right. So, but going to those competitions, you kind of get uncomfortable, and you use them as kind of training, So Tunisia, for example, I keep going back to it, but it was a tournament and a ranking event, and you want to win, and you want to do your best, and you want to be the best version of yourself. That's ideal, but you got to understand that we weren't peaking for that. We weren't really getting ready for that tournament. We were using it as training to collect data. What put yourself out there in an uncomfortable environment, uncomfortable position, and let the kinks kind of show themselves. Let the bad habits present themselves, and then come back to the drawing table and say, okay, this is what we need to work on. And once we solidify these things, once you get these things locked down, going to world championships, we're going to be unstoppable. And so it's just kind of peace of mind too, going to these tournaments, and okay, it's humbling too. It's like, oh, go out there, I'm freaking the man. After Final X, I get 2 tech falls, and you're kind of high on your horse. And then if you just ride that into the worlds, I think you kind of get a little bit complacent. But you train through a tournament like Tunisia, and you kind of allow these guys to kind of expose some weaknesses, and you come back to the drawing table, and you're hungry, and you're ready to fix these issues. So that's kind of a long-winded
No, it's
explanation,
perfect.
but just taking all that data and working on those things, because if you don't have data, what is there to work on? If I went from Final X right to the Worlds, I have practice, and there's things that present themselves in practice and practice matches and whatever, but what am I supposed to work on? There are a couple of things there. Vito got to my leg and took me down a couple of times and whatever, but there's not a lot to work on, per se. But I go to Tunisia, and there's a lot to work on. There's a lot to lock down. That doesn't give me anxiety. That gives me hope. It's like, okay, but let's figure this out, because I'm kind of a perfectionist. And I want to, just do better the next time out. So I have a lot of data and a lot of things to work on, on the mat, off the mat, both.
And I feel like you just spilled out a lot of physically. You just kind of I trained through it, barely is what you said. Is there a difference in the mental approach, or where your head's at, or how you feel going into a Tunisia or whatever, versus the Super Bowl, the Worlds, the Olympics?
I think the mindset's the same. It's got to be the same. Otherwise, I think that's like when guys get hurt. You're kind of looking through a competition, looking past a competition. You're not really present. So that's when guys kind of get hurt. But no, the mindset's the same. But in reality, it's not. There are a lot of other things going on. I don't know, actually.
Sure.
Ideally, the mindset's the same, right? It has to be, but in reality, it's not. So when you get to the Worlds, then that's just another kink you got to work out.
Okay.
Because well, life isn't just on one single plane. It's not just a physical plane. There's the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. So trying to work out all those kinks on those 4 planes is part of that training phase, and trying to get ready to go for Super Bowl or the World Championships or an NCAA tournament.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. Okay. Makes sense. Tyler, I'm talking to our producer here real quick. If you can pull up that match and we'll just kind of take it through it, and you can tell us what you're thinking. You can kind of walk us through any thoughts or anything here, really. Have you ever wrestled this guy?
Yeah, the semis of the world. If you haven't watched it, it's worth watching. It's a heck of a match.
Yeah. So you knew this was going to be a challenge.
Yeah, he's a savvy guy.
How would you describe like his style or his style?
I mean, watching him, technically he does a couple things that are all right, but he's not a very great technical wrestler. But he's very strong and he's very explosive, and he's very gamey. As you'll see, not here, but the next sequence. Now here, you gotta get 2-point takedowns here.
That's just one of those kinks you're talking about, right?
Yeah. That was good wrestling. Right here. Boom. Little bow nickel action.
Yeah. So walking off the mat, what do you take away, or is it you just let your emotions and then you take the takeaways later? Maybe you just have to feel how you have to feel.
I mean, what I'm thinking right there is he got me. There's not much not much to really think about it. Obviously you're been out of shape and upset and mad about it, but I still had matches to wrestle that day. I think that was the first match. So, I still had, multiple matches to wrestle. I think I wrestled 3 more matches that day. So, you got to kind of have a short memory and just put it behind you and go get the next one. Luckily it was a weird Nordic bracket where it was a round robin, and then you went to the pools and the bracket and then cross bracket and whatever. So I was able to come up on top there, and he got hurt, so he wasn't able to wrestle all the way through the tournament. So I would have liked to have that one back, but I'd rather not wrestle him if he's hurt, because that's just not really fair, for me and my ego. I don't want to beat a guy when he's hurt. I want to beat a guy when he's at his best and get him back then. Yeah, there are a couple of things, just there technically. I'm not very good. I'm good upper body if it's my position, with the underhook pushing, securing the other side. But coming up off the leg like that in that position and trying to cut a guy back, that's not really my position. So I should have stayed down on the leg and ran the pipe and just converted a single leg attack takedown. But I tried to go, take him to his back for 4 because he's going that way. But that was his position. It's a perfect example of something that Coach Cody and Coach Kale talk about. If it's not your position, just get out of there. If I drop his leg and I score no points there, that's fine. At least I didn't get pinned. So just staying where I'm good. There's a lot of little lessons in that little sequence, but the biggest one is just get 2-point takedowns and stay on the leg or let go of the leg, one or the other.
Sure. And so, like, this information that you just kind of broke down and analyzed, and that was maybe my question with earlier. When do you do that? Right? Is it in Germany? Is it during the tournament? Is it on the way home? Is it when you get back in the wrestling room in Pennsylvania? Like, when do you put this together and start breaking it down? Right away or a little later?
Yeah, immediately. I think I came off the mat and me and Coach Cody, talked, and like, hey, this is what I think, and he tells me what he thinks, and you kind of address it and how we're gonna fix it, and you just kind of close the book on it for now, because you got 3 more matches to wrestle, and you finish your matches, and after the tournament we talk about it, and then we come back to the room and we talk about it a little bit, but not too much more. You're always kind of thinking about it, but you don't want to dwell on it. There's a fine line there between dwelling on it, because that's not the only position I'm gonna that's going to cost me a world championship. There are a bunch of other positions that happen in that tournament, more so match awareness and solidifying matches that are going to be the difference. So, addressing it, but not dwelling on, not being obsessed with it. He pinned me, he beat me. So what? Let's just get better and just get better. It's not really about winning or losing. I'm mad to lose that way because I made a mistake and I didn't wrestle very good. That's what's more upsetting. It's not that I got beat. That doesn't really matter to me so much anymore. It's not about winning or losing. It's just being the best version of myself, and I wasn't the best version of myself, so that's why it's upsetting. And I believe if I'm the best version of myself, then I can't be beat, and that's not arrogant. That's just how I feel.
I think that's great. I love that. I love that attitude. And I want to I know we did chat about this at Final X, but it was like in a short interview right after the press conference, and it's basically Russia. It doesn't look like they're going to be there, right? And who knows how long this thing goes on. Is that disappointing to you? Not the political side, the wrestling side, and probably wanting to see Guyev again and get another crack at him.
Yeah, I think it's also disappointing from a political perspective as well. But
yeah,
we'll start from the top. I think that they'll be there.
This year?
Yeah, I think so. So they're able to compete in their judo world championships, and they're lobbying UWW, and they're trying to get USA Wrestling and some guys on USA Wrestling to kind of go to bat for them to get them to be able to wrestle the world championships. So it really comes down to UWW's decision. So I would not be surprised whatsoever if they're able to compete. I mean, if you look at some of the stuff on Instagram and these Russian websites, I mean, they're getting ready to go. I mean, what are they getting ready to go for? Probably the world championships, because they're getting ready to go. Like, don't think that they're not. Regardless if they wrestle or not, they're getting ready to go. So what's that mean for us? We got to be ready to go for them. And from just an athlete's perspective, obviously I want that match back with Guyev, but he's not the only guy that's able to be a contender at that weight. And from a team perspective, we don't want to win the Worlds without Russia there, because that kind of feeds their propaganda, in a way. Oh, they won, that's because we weren't there. And don't feed the Soviet propaganda machine. It's just unfortunate. I think that there are plenty of things that the Russians are doing within sport that they can be punished for. I'm not accusing it. It's fact, that there's some illegal goings on. I'm not saying that it happens in wrestling, but would it surprise me? Probably not. It's a state system, and they do what the government kind of tells them to do, and that's how it is. So let's punish these athletes for what they're doing wrong, not what they're not doing wrong. They didn't have a choice. They didn't go to vote in the voting booth and say, hey, yeah, let's go invade Ukraine. They probably don't want to do that as much as we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And I just think it sets a bad precedent, because what happens when our war machine gets fired up again and we go to war with somebody? And does that mean we're not going to be able to compete at the World Championships because we invaded a sovereign nation? I just think it sets a very bad precedent for sport. Sport is something, not just sport, but wrestling in particular is something that brings people together. There's this mutual respect. You shake hands at the beginning, you shake hands at the end. You don't have to like the guy. You don't have to like their politics. You don't have to like anything about them, but you respect them. You respect them as a person, as an athlete, as an individual. And I think we need that in our world right now. Things that kind of bring us together. And the sport of wrestling is the only sport, correct me if I'm wrong, that you can have Russia, the United States, Iran, all in one warm-up area, North Korea, all in one warm-up area, and World War III doesn't break out. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty unique. There's no like tampering of substances in the back. It's just it's very unique. At the Olympic Games, it was literally in one little cubby area where the staging area is United States, Russia, and Iran, all in the same block. So we had to walk by each other, brush shoulders, smell each other, whatever, and it's cordial. We don't like each other, right? But it's cordial, and we respect each other. And we need more of that in the world. We don't need this division that these politicians are trying to make up. There's plenty of that going on. Let's just wrestle and bring the world together. So let's let them wrestle. Whoever UWW listen to this, like, just let them wrestle. Who cares? They didn't do anything wrong. Investigate them for what they're doing wrong.
I like it. So you think if you had to, I'm not asking you to place money, but if somebody said you got to put $100 on, are they coming or are they not to the World Championships this year? Do you suspect they will be there?
Well, I don't bet. Right? I don't bet.
That's why I said it's
So,
hypothetical. It's hypothetical.
uh,
But what's your gut say?
I
How about
mean,
that? No bets aside. What's your gut say?
am I getting ready to wrestle Goyev? Yes, 100%. Of
Sure.
course. Yes.
All right, man. You actually got me excited because I'd like to see them there as much as probably you and the rest of the guys on the team. We don't want to win when they're not there because they are good but they are beatable. So I kind of just got to sit here and think for a second. Holy crap, they might come. You just flip my world upside down, Thomas. Thank you.
That's what I'm here for.
All right. I was speaking of Russia, but all this stuff aside, how's your speaking coming along? I think we were learning a little bit of Russian and German, or was it just German?
Well, German, I'm still studying German, but Russian, I don't really have enough time to pursue the Russian right now. But
Okay.
I can be polite enough. I can say hello, good evening, good night,
Yeah.
when's breakfast. Just those are just things I picked up when I was over there in Dagestan because I had to because no one there spoke English.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's just catchphrases in
Sure.
Russian.
No long, drawn out conversations like this.
No, not even close.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Okay. Okay. I want to switch gears now because I think at some point you said maybe you're even a few years back you considered hanging it up, but you've kind of obviously things are going really well. How far ahead do you look or think? Right. Obviously, 2024 is on your radar. I assume is 2028, or is it you take it like a quad at a time to think about how long you might want to compete?
I'd take it day by day,
Okay.
to be honest. Obviously, 2024 is within range. It's like right around the corner. But I don't like to take things in too big of bites. I think that's when people kind of get I don't know, drive themselves crazy in a way. Maybe I wake up, after the Worlds and I'm like, maybe I want to coach. Maybe I want to do something else. Maybe I don't want to compete. Maybe I want to move up a weight class. Maybe I want to wrestle Greco. Maybe you don't know. I'm not throwing lines out to anything. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You take it day by day. Because I have a strong passion for competing right now, and I love to compete, and I want to keep competing. But I'm not delusional. I'm not going to set a marker on. I'm not going to set a date. Like I'm going to compete until hit this time, then I'm done, or whatever it is. I'm just taking it day by day. As long as I enjoy it and I wake up and my body feels good and God allows me to be injury free and work through injuries, I'll keep competing. But life is a lot bigger than just the sport of wrestling. I have a daughter and wife and dogs and chickens at home. So. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not going to put a date on it.
Sure. And so maybe you already answered this as like I don't know the answer. Do you have any clue of what you would want to? Is it after you're done competing, right? Coaching, business world, full-time father, something else, or we're taking it day by day and we'll figure that out later.
A little bit of both. I think that depends on the day. I really love wrestling. I really love kind of the technical aspect of wrestling, and because I do believe I'm still getting better at wrestling, and I'm never gonna be. You're all like even guys like Coach K or Coach Gable, Coach Brandon Smith. They're all still getting better at the sport of wrestling, and they've been there, done that. The biggest accolades. So my ego kind of tells me I can't ever get out of wrestling, whether it's coaching. That would be the next step. Because I'm going to keep getting better, and I want to keep getting better because I'm hungry. But it's kind of the other things outside of the wrestling room that kind of turn me off from coaching. If it's college wrestling, it's like dealing with the extracurriculars of college aged men.
Yeah.
Dealing with administrative stuff and whatever. And then, I talk to my wife sometimes about that, and she's like, well, it's a job. You can't love every aspect of your job. There's going to be certain parts of your job that you don't really love. So it's like, oh, well, yeah, it is a job. And benefits would be good and get to do what I love and whatever. But then sometimes I think, well, maybe I want to do something outside of wrestling. Maybe I want to start a business. Maybe I want to go start a coffee shop somewhere. Maybe I want to do a regenerative farm. Being a full-time dad, I think of like a stay-at-home dad. That's a lot of work. I'd have to put in some more work in my patience. I do okay, but I'm not my wife, so I have to work at that. But I'm just kind of being funny.
Man, parenting's tough. And you're like, what are you, 6 months, 6 months? Like the first year is probably the toughest.
Yeah, she'll be 8 months this month. So
All right. So what's
she's
she
just
doing?
starting to get.
She crawl?
What's she doing? She's crawling, climbing, falling, attacking the dogs, trying to catch the cat, eating. It's crazy. Every day is like a new adventure for her and us. It's like she wakes up today and she's doing new noises and babbling and doesn't stop making noises. Like, is she crying? No, she's not. It's fun. It's definitely the hardest thing I've ever done is trying to be a parent. It's definitely the hardest, but definitely the most rewarding as well.
Yeah, without a doubt. Coaching's not the only avenue. You could become, I don't know, a wrestling analyst or an announcer, FloWrestling personality. Thomas Gilman? You never know.
Trying to hire me?
Well, not yet. I want you to go win world titles and Olympic titles, but who knows down the line.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And there could be new things that pop up in the next, right? It wasn't a thing 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Right.
So, what could
Yeah,
be the next
I'm thinking
thing?
too narrowly, I guess.
Yeah, come on. You got to broaden your horizons here, Thomas.
I know. That's why I'm here, get cultured a little bit on the media side of wrestling. Maybe that's something I go into.
Yeah, well, hopefully it just continues to get bigger and bigger because that's just better for everyone. Maybe here's something, and this isn't necessarily media, but it's more on the presentation. There was criticism, right, about Final X, maybe the setup. Is it too long of a day? Should it be more days? Should it be less venues? Should it be more venues? Do you have any thoughts on this? And how, because they were long days. Right? I think they started at 2 p.m, and there was a long session and then a shorter session at night. But is that anything you give much thought to? The presentation of the sport or how people consume it or how to make it more fan friendly?
I think there's just got to be a little more, not saying that there's not a lot of thought, because obviously there's a lot of thought that goes into the production and the arenas and the setup and the timing, but I just think there's got to be a lot more thought, because if you look at the USA Wrestling schedule this year, and you went from the U.S. Open to Last Chance Qualifier to World Team Trials to Final X at 2 different venues. So just from a financial perspective, I think things are maybe changing. I talked to Dave, and Dave kind of disagrees with me, and he's probably right because he's more involved in wrestling than I am in this area. But I always viewed it as a blue collar sport, working class sport. And so, like, why do you sell out arenas for NCAA tournament? Well, because you can take your family, buy one hotel room for one weekend. It's 3 days of straight wrestling and get gobs and gobs of good matches. Just one weekend. Take 1 weekend off work. But it's hard to grow freestyle wrestling when people don't really know what to do or what to go to. And there's 5 different events and blah, blah, blah. And also for the RTCs, it's hard. Especially in RTC, like Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, people are like, oh, well, you guys got buco bucks. It's like, well, maybe compared to Joe Schmo RTC, but money is not free. We still have to fund these athletes to go to the Open, the Last Chance Qualifier, the trials, Final X. We had athletes going every different direction and coaches too. So I don't know the answer. That's just my one critique. I think Stillwater was interesting because you had, I believe you had the softball World Series or trial regionals or something going on. And so there's a kind of an overlap of events. I think that's hard too. You get some The weather's starting to get nice down there, and you get some local families like, well, do we want to sit in the gym for 8 hours today, or do we want to go sit outside and drink beer and watch some softball? They probably have zero care about softball and more care about wrestling, but they don't want to be stuck in a gym for 8 hours. So they're going to go watch softball and drink beer.
Sure.
I don't know. New York was better. I was happy to see that. New York had a good full arena, and I thought that was smooth. I think the other thing with Stillwater was weird that they took an extra hour of break to do the
Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame. That's cool, I guess. But those guys that are getting inducted to the Hall of Fame, Varner got inducted. He doesn't want to be doing that. He's got work to do. He's a coach. He's a workout partner for Kyle Snyder. He doesn't want to be dividing his attention going to be a show pony. He's a workhorse. Let him do his work. I think maybe that's a cool thing for people that are outside the sport, but the guys that actually are getting inducted and have done the work and been in the trenches, they don't care about the pomp and fame and glory of it. It's just a thing. Who cares?
Sure.
And now I'm being a little critical of the Hall of Fame. I'm not trying to be, but it's just that extra hour, and then I hear from my family and my wife, it's like, well, why did we need a break? Why did we need a break? Why couldn't we have done a match? Whatever the rest time is, if it's it's 20 minutes, we had plenty of time to run right into the next match. And then a lot of these matches like Jo and Rutherford, they went 3 matches. A couple of those matches went 3 matches. That's a long time. So I think if you just take out the break to start, I think that's way better. Just run it through. Because I think people will want a shorter event with higher intensity instead of a longer event with lower intensity. Because you run right into that second, third match, that intensity is high, really high. I think the arena will feed off it.
Sure, and I don't know what the answer is. None of us knows what the answer is. I think the reason that the NCAA's is so popular is because there's the team affiliations, right? I love Penn State, I love Iowa, I love Cornell, I love Missouri, I love whatever, right? Oh, I went to this school. I can identify with cheering for this team, whether or not I'm completely familiar with everyone. So I think that's part of the built-in deal with the NCAA, and it's such an awesome tournament. It's run well, and it's really, it's been the same, right? 2 sessions a day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday I've been going for 20-something years, but I'm sure even longer than that. Klingman, has it changed ever since you've been going? Klingman's probably been going since the 80s.
Not since 80s, 95, but it was 2-day at one point, and of course back in the 1928, it wasn't 3 days, and there was only 40 competitors, but it's a staple event. It's a staple event, no doubt.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on what we were talked about? Well, any of it, but specifically how to make freestyle more appealing?
Quit changing the rules.
Oh, that too.
I mean, folk style rules, they change, but compared to freestyle, folk style is pretty easy to understand, which is crazy. You'd think freestyle would be a little easier to understand, but you get, with the cautions, and I mean, we go to camp and we're having meetings with the referees because we, as world team members, world champions, Olympic gold medalists, whatever, world champion coaches, don't know the rules. We don't know the rules. I mean, we know the rules, but we don't know the rules. We go to the tournament, we think we know the rules, and we're giving up points, and we're like, well, what the heck is going on? And they're like, well, here, this is why. It's like, well, how are you supposed to explain it to the average fan when you yourself don't even know the rules? I come off the mat, or come off a tournament, my wife's like, well, what happened here? I thought that this was one and this should be a caution or whatever. I'm like, I have no idea. I don't know. We're trying to figure that out. And the other thing is we call things different in the United States than we do internationally, because I don't know why. I don't think it's that we have the refs are any lesser than the international refs. It's just I don't think that our referees get enough international experience to call it the way they kind of call it like a folk style match as far as the cautions and passivities and certain things go. So I think that's that's an issue too. I think if you want to grow freestyle, just quit changing the rules so much. Every year they're changing them and making minuscule adjustments in the rules that they think it's going to clarify it, but actually puts more power in the referee's hands, and they're making, throwing points up, and you don't even know where they're coming from.
Yeah, I'm with you. The grounded thing is one of my biggest. Step out, grounded. Was he? You see the same scenario, and maybe between the same two wrestlers called differently, match to match, or maybe even period to period, where, okay, he was on his knees, he went out, nothing. Now he's on his knees and it goes out and it's 1. That's one of the more frustrating ones to me. But
yeah, it's. I mean, give the refs the benefit of the doubt. The wording in the rule book is not super clear either. And when you get, we've all been in the stress of the moment, and you just, you don't really remember how you called it, so you call it, and that's why they have 3 referees. But I don't know. It's that's like the most glaring issue is the out of bounds rule, and fleeing the hold now is kind of a weird one. If I push a guy out of bounds and he doesn't hold his ground, is that caution and 2, or is it just 1? Is it 2 and 1? If he goes to his knees, is that parterre? Does he go back down? And then do you get caution? It's just there's uber scenarios that it's called, like you're saying, different every single time throughout the match.
Yep. I completely agree. And as we wind through this interview, I am going to bring Kyle back in, and he's got a set of questions. Really, he's going to try to stump you. So we're going to let Kyle take it over.
Yeah, that's our game called Sweat It Out. I have 5 questions. Thomas, are you ready to play?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, number 1, who was the last native-born Iowan before you to win a world championship?
Dan Gable.
You got it. 1971. Number 2, who is considered to be the only 6-star general in U.S. history?
Oh, 6-star general. I have no idea. I want to say Patton, but they killed him off too soon.
No, it's not him. George Washington was given the General of the Armies of the United States tab, which many consider to be a 6-star general. So it's George Washington, our first president. Number 3, who is the only American to win an Olympic gold medal in weightlifting?
What?
Men's or women's?
Only one.
Well, Coach Casey's wife got silver, but then the lady tested positive, so I think she's an Olympic gold medalist in weightlifting.
That's correct. Casey Cunningham's wife, Tara Knott Cunningham, was the only Olympic gold medalist in weightlifting. And they nixed that sport, by the way, so it's no longer a sport.
So she will forever be the only.
She will. That's
unless
correct.
I bring it back.
Number 4, what identical twins from Council Bluffs, Iowa made U.S. world teams?
From Council Bluffs?
Mm-hmm.
I think I know the answer, but I don't know if they're technically from Council Bluffs, Carter Lake, or Sheldon, Iowa. Brands?
No.
Is it like
identical twin?
Yep.
Who?
Give it a year. Give me the year. I think, is it like 2010?
Yeah, in the 2010-ish, they made different teams.
Paulsons.
There we go. There we go.
You got it.
Little nudge.
All right. And number 5, what U.S. wrestler won a silver medal in the 57-kilogram weight class, which is your weight class, the 1972 Olympics, and was killed in a car wreck immediately following the Olympics?
Oh, I can picture him. Give me a second. Long hair, kind of reminds me of Dan Dennis. What the heck is his name?
Why didn't it remind you of Mark? He has long hair.
Stop.
Huh?
I'm not quite as wild. That's like more of a wild look, right? Less tame. I comb my hair.
I can picture him. I'm not gonna get his name.
Okay. His name's Rick Sanders.
Rick Sanders. Yep.
Yep.
All right. So, 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5.
All right. Yeah.
Pretty good. Enough. I mean, at least he knew. He kind of was in the ballpark in the last one there. So.
Well, he knew. He just couldn't. The name.
Yeah, just couldn't get the name.
Could have phoned a friend or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Last thing. Totally unrelated. maybe I'm hearing in the back. Is the baby right there? Can we see your daughter?
Yeah. Jade, you want to say hi? Come here, sweets. Oh, you want to see the laptop? Oh yeah. Let's see the laptop here. Can we see?
There we
here she is.
go. Oh,
That's
Father Gilman.
Jade Sophia.
Jade
Look right here.
Sophia.
Look at these guys. Jade Sophia, yeah.
Hi.
Look, he kind of looks like Dad.
Hi. Yeah, he's got
Say hi.
a beard and dark hair.
Show him your personality a little bit. Come on.
She gets shy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she
they're
gets
all-
shy.
They're all shy. I got 11-month-old, shy as can be
Oh,
around
what do you
others.
think? Huh? That's Jade.
awesome.
She's our little gem.
That's awesome, man. How much she weigh? Do you know?
Maybe like, well, she let
11 pounds or
This
something.
time she was 14 pounds, so maybe 15-ish.
maybe 15, 16 pounds. She was 14 at her last appointment a month
Okay.
ago. So she's tiny.
Yeah. Well, I got a 11-month-old who's the same size, so.
Oh, really?
Super tiny. Yeah, she takes after me. How about this? Would you want? I know it's early, right? Do you want her to wrestle, or would you like it if she wanted to wrestle, or would you be like, nah, I don't want to wrestle?
Well, whatever she wants to do. I mean, if she
Yeah.
wants to wrestle, we're supportive. If not, great. I mean, I think women's wrestling is really growing, and there's a lot of good opportunities for women's wrestling now, thanks to some of these women coming through now, kind of
Yeah.
trailblazing. So if she wants to wrestle, that's great. If not, no big deal either.
Awesome.
Whatever she wants to do.
Cool. There she is. There's that personality. Got that big smile,
There's a
man.
smile.
Cool. All right, man. Well, we'll let you get back and enjoy some family time. But we'll give you the final word. Anything you want to say about anything, Thomas?
No, I don't. Going to Serbia here in about a month, so stay tuned for that. We got a great team, up and down the lineup. We got a couple new faces in there, but a few new old faces as well, and some very old faces. So we got a great team, and I'm excited for us, to go out there and just wrestle hard. And I think if we all do our part and wrestle our best and just wrestle our hearts out, I think we'll take care of business.
Yeah, man. I've said it before, but this is I really feel like it's a golden era of USA Wrestling has come back around. I think there's 6 guys on the team who have won gold, 5 or 6. So it's amazing. So
Yeah, it's a good team.
we're looking forward to it. Thomas, thanks so much. It's always awesome and a joy talking to you. Great to meet your daughter. Say goodbye for your daughter and your wife and everybody else. Have a great day and best of luck in Serbia, man.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me,
All right.
guys.
Thanks, man. Yep, have a great day. We'll see you.
Bye-bye.
All right, folks, there it is. Thomas Gilman, returning world champion, father, and all-around good guy. So that's going to do it. For Kyle Klingman, I am Mark Bader. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see y'all next week. Adios.